We are now 5 weeks through the fantasy football season, which means we now have a plethora of data points to decide whether players are trending in the right direction or wrong direction. We're going to play that exact game today with 7 different players and whether they are trending or ending through the first 5 weeks. Ty, let's start with the guy who has been on a roll recently. Breece Hall has had 110 plus yards in back-to-back games since Braylon Allen has gone down. We pulled the people over on Instagram to get their thoughts on these players. A nice 69% of them believe this trend will continue for Breece Hall. He is trending in the right direction. Do you agree?
I think so. Maybe not so much from the rushing perspective, but it's from the receiving side of things that I agree with. 6 targets in 2 of his last 3 games, 4 catches in 2 of those last 3 games as well. So when you're getting that kind of receiving work, it does kind of elevate you up in kind of the running back world, I will call it. At the same time, we do need to just kind of call it out. Having 2 games in a row with runs of 20 plus yards does help out when you're only getting 14 carries. And I will likely chalk that up to game script. So knowing for the rest of the year, when you've got teams like Carolina, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Atlanta, Miami, Jacksonville, like run defenses that the Jets should be able to exploit and take advantage of, maybe we can continue the trend of these kind of breakaway runs and continue to capitalize on such small volume in the rushing game. But as long as the receiving work continues to go the way that it is right now, I'm expecting Breece Hall to kind of maintain the pace that he's at right now.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting how the snaps ended up playing out in this game as well. Again, without Braylon Allen in this game, Isaiah Davis was the next man up. He did play 33 snaps to Breece Hall's 50, but the opportunities were still very much in favor of Breece Hall. 18 total opportunities for Breece Hall to only 5 for Isaiah Davis. So clearly, they're just going to lean into Breece Hall here. And you mentioned the matchups. Denver, you don't hate next week, but then going into the bye, it's Carolina, Cincinnati. So I definitely think Breece Hall can continue trending in the right direction. I think the supplemental question we need to ask in turn then is how high is the ceiling for Breece Hall without Braylon Allen now? I mean, is he locked and loaded, top 10 running back each and every single week, top 7 running back each and every single week? Like, I'm with the people. I think this continues, but we have to now ask the question, how high does this push him up?
Yeah, I feel like the ceiling week to week is going to be like fringe top 10. I would even say top 8, because so far through 5 games, we have 0 touchdowns. And that's ultimately going to be the difference for Breece Hall. When we get to the goal line, now that Braylon Allen is out of the picture, does Breece have some more opportunities on the goal line? Maybe, or maybe those go to Justin Fields now. However it plays out, that's the ceiling. But that ceiling will only come to fruition if he scores. So until then, I just see him more so as a high-end running back 2. And if he does give you the touchdown, you're celebrating, because I'm not expecting a ton of touchdowns the rest of the way for Breece Hall.
And now keep in mind, this is all happening on an 0-5 Jets team as well. A Jets team that was chasing points against the Dallas Cowboys yesterday. On Sunday, we're recording this on Monday, but on Sunday, this was against the Dallas Cowboys where they were chasing points in that game, which is encouraging to me moving forward. So I think as long as Braylon Allen is all, which it sounds like he's going to be out for another 7-8 weeks, like 8 to 10 weeks was his timeline, I believe. Someone could correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that, but all I'm hearing in that is, hey, we're getting like potential league winner Breece Hall here for the foreseeable future. So if you have Breece Hall on your team, you're in a wonderful, wonderful spot in our eyes. Before we move on to the next group of players, though, want to make sure you all have hit that subscribe button already and turned on that notification bell as well, so you know when our newest content is up. We know a lot of you, this might be your first time around here, or you continuously consume our content and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet. Our goal, yes, we want to provide you all the insights that we're using, that I use to beat Ty in fantasy football every single week, that we use to beat Cameron every single week. But we also want to remind you of the fun and camaraderie that comes with the game as well. As Ty's like, Lucas, I'm literally going to squash you in both of our dynasty leagues when we face off, which is true. Our Lords of the Living Room dynasty team is not panning out. Curse you, Lad McConkey, and a CeeDee Lamb injury and a Rashee Rice suspension that has absolutely tanked that team. But you're not here to listen to me complain about my dynasty team. Let's talk about a player going in the opposite direction, Ty, because Alvin Kamara Oh boy, it has not been all that we have hoped for to start the season. Over the last 3 games, he has been the RB26 or worse on a weekly basis. 59% of people think that trend ends up discontinuing. They think there's a bounce back coming for Alvin Kamara, but what say you?
I can't agree with the people on this one. I think we're going to continue to see more of this as the season goes on, because the issue that we're running into here is not that the New Orleans offensive line is really bad at run blocking. That's pretty much been Alvin Kamara's case, because the guy is pretty much averaged 4 yards a carry for the last like 5 seasons, it feels like, and that's what he's averaging right now. The issue is the inconsistent receiving work. That was the thing that we could bank on year in and year out. And it's been nice to see that after, in the last 2 games, we've gotten 4 catches on 5 targets and 6 targets even this past Sunday. But what's to say that we don't get another game like we saw in week 1 with just 2 targets, even week 3 with another 2 targets, because we have the inconsistencies in the receiving work. I think that's ultimately going to limit the ceiling of Alvin Kamara that we used to bank on as a top 12 guy. Now we kind of look at him as this like, man, I don't just low end running back 2 that isn't exactly going to win me my week, but probably isn't going to lose me my week either. So he's just kind of stuck on your team, because at the same time, nobody wants Alvin Kamara at this point because they are seeing the inconsistencies, and they honestly just don't like having any Saints players because the Saints aren't doing that great this year. That's ultimately what that comes down to.
So it's funny. I find it interesting that you took the receiving route on this. I'm taking the Kendre Miller route on this, because Kendre Miller
I'm glad you're talking about this.
Yeah, because Kendre Miller has become increasingly more involved over the last few weeks. I mean, 11 rushing attempts against the Bills. I mean, they were chewing up the Bills on the ground, rightfully so. You just keep feeding your running backs in that game. But even against the Giants, right? Kendre Miller had 10 rush attempts to Alvin Kamara's 8. Again, Kamara got the receiving work, 4 receptions on 6 targets. Kendre Miller only drew 1 target, but it's no longer Alvin Kamara getting the lion's share of the running back touches in this backfield. Like, they're starting to finally use Kendre Miller in between the tackles more. And Kendre Miller has been phenomenal coming into the week. He was averaging the most yards after contact per attempt of all running backs in the entire NFL. So Kendre Miller has been playing very solid football recently, and Kellen Moore is starting to reward that. So I don't know. Is it bad that I'm like, as a longtime Alvin Kamara truther on our channel, I'm leaning towards the 41% here, that I'm actually worried Alvin Kamara is more of like a flex play every single week than he is a locked and loaded RB2 for your team.
I mean, it's not a coincidence. You look at the last 4 weeks, Alvin Kamara in week 2 played 86% of snaps, followed by 74%, followed by 73%, and 56% this past week. And Kendre Miller in week 2 played 15% of snaps, then 27%, then 31%, then 39%. So we're seeing a decrease in playing time for Alvin Kamara, and we're seeing a rise in playing time for Kendre Miller. So this is not the same Saints. I think you and I would agree on this sentiment. This is not the same Saints backfield as years past. Touches may look a little similar. Again, like 4 receptions in back-to-back games for Kamara feels a little bit more normal, more like what we are used to seeing.
I'm also used to that being paired with 13, 14 rush attempts on top of it.
Correct.
I'm used to like 20 touches in a game, 20 opportunities for Kamara, and we're not even getting to 15 anymore.
Exactly. So
this week we didn't get to 15.
Correct. So you and I, again, we're both with the 41% here of like, I'm not really expecting a whole lot to change. I'm expecting more of this to continue. And until we see something different, it's kind of scary hours for Alvin Kamara.
Yeah. And again, you want to go back to San Francisco, Seattle, right? 21 rush attempts, 18 rush attempts. You can see that on your screen over on YouTube, 6 receptions against the 49ers as well. But you take a look at which way those numbers are trending. The rush attempts are going down. The receptions are hovering in that 4 to 6 range, but 1 and 2 still against Seattle and Arizona. I don't know, man. If Alvin Kamara isn't getting the rushing work on top of it, and if he isn't scoring in addition to that, I'm seeing Alvin Kamara on a week-to-week basis closer in that like RB 23 to RB like 28 range, and that's more of a flex play than it is like a confident RB2. in my mind. Let's maybe have an easier conversation. Maybe not an easier conversation, but I'll maybe say it like this. The people were very clear on their thoughts on Quinshon Judkins, who has now had 20 plus touches in 3 straight games. The people say 91% Quinshon Judkins is trending. And look, I think the people sniffed this one out. We don't have to make this one complicated. Dylan Sampson is not as big of a factor as we thought he would be after the receiving volume he got in week 1. It does appear just to be the Quinshon Judkins show in Cleveland.
It absolutely is right now. And I will hold my hands up and say calling Quinshon Judkins a sit in week 4 was kind of stupid of me.
It was bold of you to begin with. But
it was bold. But the reason why I said he was a sit was because I wasn't sure if Quinshon Judkins' role was going to remain the same if they were down big. And that's how the game played out. But Judkins stayed in the game script, stayed involved, and he got 4 receptions on top of 21 carries. So this past week against Minnesota, 23 carries for 110 yards is awesome. Only 1 catch. The caveat is that Cleveland was in the game. They were dictating the flow of the game up until like the last 2 drives of the game for Minnesota.
2 drives, yeah.
So knowing that, again, if games are going to be more, more of a blowout and not in the favor of Cleveland, Quinshon Judkins is still going to remain involved. And even if the game stays close, Quinshon Judkins is going to get the majority line of the rushing work here as well. So this one is, again, pretty straightforward, like you said. Like Quinshon Judkins is the dude in this Cleveland offense, and he looks freaking sweet out there right now.
He looks so insanely good, man. And you have to imagine when the Browns put Dylan Gabriel in, they don't want to put the ball in Dylan Gabriel's hands. Like, can we just be real about that for a second? They want to put it in Quinshon Judkins' hands. So you knew this was going to be a game that he touched the ball a lot against Minnesota Vikings, because why would you put it in your rookie's quarterback, 3rd-round rookie quarterback's hands in an international game against the Brian Flores defense that could literally humiliate him on any given down? Why not just give it to Quinshon Judkins, who has been a beast against the Minnesota Vikings run defense that has not been great this year? I think that trend continues. You look at the matchups coming, it's Pittsburgh, Miami, New England. Miami is obviously a phenomenal matchup to target. Pittsburgh is middle of the pack. Patriots are actually pretty good against the run this year, but it goes back to your point. Quinshon Judkins has just looked so good at this point that you're not taking the football out of his hands. You have no reason to put the ball back into Dylan Gabriel's hands. So let's play a game of fill in the blank here then, Ty. Quinshon Judkins is running back blank rest of season.
Somewhere between running back 12 and running back 15.
Okay.
Because I think what will ultimately carry him into being a running back 1 by year end or a high end running back 2 is touchdowns. We got them against Green Bay. We got them against Detroit. We didn't get it this past week against Minnesota. And again, I don't want to make it sound like the touchdowns will make a week for Quinshon Judkins, because again, 110 yards is still a really good week. But if we are not going to score, we're going to be just stuck between this, I would say, running back 14 to running back 18 on a week-to-week finish.
Yeah, and it does help if we do have a boost in those reception numbers as well, right? Even if we would have had another 3 receptions in this game, you could tack on another 1.5 plus whatever receiving yards come onto that as well, right? So unless if we get a consistent 3 receptions every single game from Judkins, you tack on another 20, 30 yards to that and a score. That's where I do think we could end up getting to those top 10 numbers. But I'm with you on this one. I think if I had to place Judkins rest of season without having a list of players right in front of me, I would say the running back 13 would be where I would put him, which is right in your range of RB 12 to 15. Speaking of top 15 at their position, TJ Hockenson, oh brother, he has not been that. He only has 1 top 15 tight end finish this year, Ty. And to say 1 top 15 finish is not great, because you should be top 12 in a standard 12-man league to crack a lineup. So essentially, TJ Hockenson has only been worth playing in your lineup once this year. He only has 30 half PPR points on the season, 19 receptions for 153 yards and a score. The people are more optimistic than I am. 61% think this trend will end. I think this continues. I don't think you can trust TJ Hockenson rest of season.
I agree with you. I was not as in on TJ Hockenson this year as one of our co-hosts was.
I started off very bullish on TJ Hockenson, and I cooled off very quickly after I drafted a ton of him early on. And I'm like, wait, there are a lot better players I could be drafting in this range.
Yep. And then the third
disadvantages of drafting in like May compared to July or August.
Yeah, and then the third fella never got off the never got off that horse. So I'll just say this. Do you know the meme from The Office where it's Pam and she's holding up the two pictures of the building? And
Corporate wants you to identify the difference between these two photos. Yes.
Of
course I do.
Now picture TJ Hockenson on one and Sam Laporta on the other. They are quite literally, I see them like identical.
Oh,
okay.
Even after Laporta's bounce back this week.
Yes, because, well, okay, so let's talk about Laporta's game real quick, and that'll get back to Hockenson. 68 of his 92 yards came after the catch. I know that Laporta is more athletic than people want to give him credit for, but I'm not expecting almost what's the math on that? 60 70% of 60 to 70% of his receiving yards after the catch. I'm not expecting that. And I'm also gonna side with Cam on this. I think Jameson Williams eventually gets more involved and Sam Laporta continues to take the backseat. Okay. So again, why I see TJ Hockenson and Sam Laporta so similarly is because I see them both as touchdown dependent, rotating number 2, number 3 options in their passing games. The only difference is that Laporta is in the better offense right now. So you would rather take the shot on Laporta because I'll be honest, like the passing game here in Minnesota has not gotten going, and we're expecting now Jordan Addison in the fold to get his. And obviously you have Justin Jefferson. Like it's not looking great for Hawkinson's outlook the rest of the year. And if you want even more proof why I see them more identical, over the last 2 weeks, TJ Hockenson is the tight end 21 in usage. And Sam Laporta, you want to take a guess?
Tight end 19 in usage.
Tight end 22 in usage.
Oh, behind Hawk even.
Behind Hawk. And Hockenson has 11 targets to Laporta's 10 targets. Like, the only thing that you can bank on, again, right now between these two guys is either big plays after the catch or touchdowns. We got those both. We got that both from Laporta this week. I'm not expecting that to continue. And I don't know when we will see that for Hockenson at this point in Minnesota's offense, because now you're going into a bye week. JJ McCarthy is potentially coming back. That we still don't, no one knows if it's going to be Carson Wentz or JJ McCarthy. So
he might still have hurt feelings or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
Might not be an ankle sprain, might be hurt feelings. I don't know, man.
We don't need to go down that path. That's just it's not necessary, man. So you started off by saying like you're siding more with the 39% in the trending, that you're scared for the outlook for Hockenson. I'm right there with you. I wish someone can paint me the optimistic case, because I would love to cope a little bit, but I just don't see that right now.
I don't either. And I think it was interesting. I can't remember which broadcast it was on specifically, but at the start of the season, TJ Hockenson, because of how banged up the Vikings offensive line was, he was actually having to chip on a lot more at the start of his routes, because you literally can't get enough protection for JJ McCarthy to throw the football. So TJ Hockenson was actually chipping more often than not, which led to a lower usage rate. Now you're starting to see that a little bit more. He's bounced back the last few weeks. I believe he caught all 6 of his targets against Cleveland this past week. You're starting to see him bounce back a little bit more, but I don't know, man. When you get Justin Jefferson in the fold and he needs to be involved, you get Jordan Addison back, who is just still catching touchdowns at an absurd rate. Where does TJ Hockenson factor in if you also want to run the football more this year with Jordan Mason, with Aaron Jones once he's back and healthy? And who's to say when this Vikings offensive line does get 100% healthy? What if TJ Hockenson still needs to help out as an extra blocker for the offensive line? So there's just so much going on here in Minnesota that, You drafted TJ Hockenson as like the tight end 5, tight end 6 in your drafts. I hate to tell you, you're just not getting value back on that the rest of the season. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if TJ Hockenson actually ends up outside of the top 15 tight ends rest of season. Because I just don't think he's going to get the usage that we need him to compared to that 2023 season, that 2022 season when he was getting darn near 130 targets. And that 2023 season was cut short. So I think all of that to say, yeah, you and I are both out on TJ Hockenson rest of season.
I look, if you thought that there's some optimism, like there's a light at the end of the tunnel because of some upcoming opponents or something like that, let me just read you the first 4 opponents for the Vikings right out of their bye. It's Philly, it's the LA Chargers, it's the Detroit Lions, it's the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm expecting Baltimore's defense to be a little bit healthier than they are right now. And to just maybe sum it up best, this is a bottom 5 schedule the rest of the year for Vikings tight ends. So either we need some injuries in front of him to happen, or we need some play action rollouts and just some dink and dump in the flats to Hockenson and let him just PPR scam his way to relevancy.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog, where you can get into the game this season playing Pick'em. It's extremely simple. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more of your favorite players. For example, I'll pick the higher on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Xavier Worthy. If I played $10 and got all 3 of them right, I would win $60 just by watching football. And that's the beauty of Pick'em. You can track your picks and your wins while you enjoy the game. Now, if you're not on Underdog yet, scan the QR code on your screen or use our code FELLAS when you sign up, because new customers will get $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5 on the app. Plus, Underdog will give you a free pick to use in your first entry. Again, that's code FELLAS over on Underdog. Now let's get you back to the rest of the show. Well, let's stick at a position that's not the running back or wide receiver position, Ty, because Justin Fields, holy cow, has he been on a heater. He has had 25 plus fantasy points in all 3 of his fully healthy games this year. I was in on Justin Fields coming into the year. I believe I had him ranked the highest out of the 3 of us because I just had uber confidence in this rushing upside that he possessed. He's shown us that in the past. I wasn't quite expecting 25 plus in 3 straight games that he's fully completed to open the year. This is interesting because 70% of the people think this trend continues. 30% thinks it's going to end at some point. And I think you can make a case for both sides. To me, I was a little bit surprised. I'm like, wow, I'm surprised this isn't closer to like 75, 80%. Like, to me, Justin Fields is the epitome of what you want out of a 25 plus point player. A team always playing from behind. He's got the rushing upside if he hits gets a touchdown via the ground as well. That's icing on the cake. But I think you can also make the case of like, holy cow, the Jets are really bad at football. Like, somehow this team has regressed even further just by turning over the entire coaching staff. So where do you think this trend continues? And maybe I'll say like 25 plus points is aggressive. Obviously, I don't think he continues that pace, but we're looking at Justin Fields as a top 3 quarterback so far this year. Do you think he can maintain that pace, at least top 5?
I'll give him top 5. 25 points per game is quite literally like top 3 at the position.
Yeah, that feels unsustainable.
It does. I think the only people that would be able to sustain that are Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson when everything is equul, everything is perfect, everyone is healthy, because those offenses are so high powered. I would agree with that to a certain extent as well.
But again, that Eagles offense has to be firing on all cylinders, and obviously, I think it's hard to look at that right now and say, of course, Jalen Hurts is in that category. But like, I digress. If we're going to say firing on all cylinders, then Jalen Hurts, I think, has to be in that conversation. But continue.
I would agree. So, what I will say though is that if Justin Fields can be a top 5 guy the rest of the year, because I'm going to be honest, besides the Buffalo game, Justin Fields has looked really, really good throwing the ball this year. Now, that's not to say that he's played perfect. Like, there are some miscues and there are some mistakes that he makes. But because we're getting some better quarterback play from the pocket right now, on top of the rushing production, before it was just the rushing production. But again, because we're getting better and improved passing from the pocket this year with Justin Fields, this just kind of elevates the ceiling just a little bit more. And so that's why I would I would go as far to say that, like, yeah, he can be a top 5 guy the rest of the year. But at the same time, it's scary because it feels like this Jets situation, for whatever reason, is pretty fragile. That, like,
Incredibly
something
fragile.
offensive line injury, or he loses a playmaker, like he loses Mason Taylor, which I just need to say, like, that the Mason Taylor emergence the last 2 weeks is like, makes my heart happy.
Yes. As someone who loved him coming out. Yes, I agree.
So that's the scary part. This feels fragile, that, like, if something goes wrong, it could be an injury. It could be, some inconsistent quarterback play that we were getting, the last couple of seasons from Justin Fields, then it definitely changes things. But as of right now, the way that Justin Fields has been playing, this does give him, in my mind, some top 5 at the position value.
He's valuing the football too. That's the other thing that
Yes.
I don't think we can leave unstated. We're not seeing seasons with 10 interceptions, 11 interceptions, 9 interceptions. I mean, we're going to fly all the way back to his rookie season, because those were the seasons in Chicago, and we didn't even get like a huge sample of Justin Fields last. I guess we did. We got 5 touchdowns to 1 interception, but 7 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, 17 and 11, 16 and 9 so far this year through 4 games, 4 passing touchdowns to 0 interceptions. But again, like, you and I aren't here to brag about how great of a thrower of the football Justin Fields is. It's that he's taking care of the football. The structure of the offense is allowing him to take care of the football. But yet we're still, like, we're getting production in the passing game too, even though it's not like this beautiful open flowing offense. It still feels like a lot of things are safe underneath. So Justin Fields doesn't put the ball in harm's way. Could that get fragile once we do try and start opening up the offense, because we need to try and create wins somehow and not be 0-5 the entire year? Again, you named it really well. I do think this Jets situation is incredibly fragile, but if it's one thing that's going to sustain Justin Fields the entire year, it is his rushing volume, right? Again, already 3 rushing touchdowns on the season, already 200 yards on the ground on only 31 carries. To me, he's top 5 in my mind rest of season. And, like, there's a lot of good throwers of the football this year, but until Jaden Daniels works his way back there, who knows how Dak Prescott is going to continue playing the rest of the year. Once you get CeeDee Lamb back, I think you can consider him in that conversation. If the Chargers figure it out in the passing game again, I think Justin Herbert has to be in that conversation. But I don't know, man. It's the rushing volume of Justin Fields that I'm just like, I think I feel the best about him, because as Josh Norris of Underdog Football Show always says, with these mobile quarterbacks, the rushing is the base. Whatever you get in the passing game is the icing on the cake, right? You're playing a running back at the quarterback position, essentially. So that's why I'm very confident in Justin Fields rest of season. I'm not telling you 25 plus every single week from here on out, but again, if we're getting top 5 numbers every week, I wouldn't be surprised in the least if we get that for at least 70% of the games rest of the season. Why don't we flip back to the wide receiver position here, Ty? Because I can't figure out, I can't figure out for the life of me what's going on with Jakobi Meyers, but after a relatively good start to the season, less than 10 fantasy points in each of his last 3 games. 5.2, 5, 7.8. And if you even want to go back to the Chargers, 9.8, but I threw it in close enough to 10 in that regard. Geno Smith looks terrible. I thought this was a really savvy quarterback upgrade for the Raiders coming into this year. Even in a game without Brock Bowers this last week against the Colts, who were allowing the 3rd most fantasy points per game to wide receivers this year, this to me was like, hello, Jakobi Meyers, bounce back week here. Geno Smith just looks terrible, man. I don't know what it is. I haven't gone back and actually watched the film in depth yet. I haven't gotten a look at the all 22 as of 5 o'clock on Monday. But what are you getting? Why is Jakobi Meyers struggling so much right now?
Maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but it feels like there isn't much of a structure to this Vegas offense, and they're kind of needing Geno to do more than he's capable of doing in some ways. Like, I go back to the Chicago game where he's throwing 3 picks and not even throwing for 150 yards. He only drops,
he only attempts in that game.
Correct. Like,
actually, Genty had a field day though. I want to add that.
Genty did have a field day.
Genty had a field day.
there really wasn't room for Geno to like have a monster game when Gentry himself was going off. But
3 picks in that game. You shouldn't be throwing 3 picks and only 21 attempts when your 6th overall pick running back is literally absolutely tearing holes all over the Chicago Bears defense. You shouldn't be throwing 3 picks.
So I just think right now we need to consolidate this offense a little bit. Maybe this past week in a blowout game against Indy isn't the best, the best example. But we're spreading the ball out so much. And I know Brock Bowers is a part of this game. So all of this to say, what we really need to happen here moving forward for Jakobi Meyers to bounce back to what we saw in week 1 into what we saw in week 2 with 12 targets. We need Chip Kelly to just say, screw Dante Thornton trying to get him the ball. Screw Michael Mayer and trying to use 2 tight end sets.
Screw Jack Besh putting hand in the dirt on the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
5 targets. Yep. What are we doing?
What are we doing? Let's just get Brock Bowers, Jakobi Meyers, and Ashton Gentry the ball. And look, Pete Carroll has made it known that like he expected to be winning right from the gate. That's what his expectation was, and they're not doing that right now.
Why are we getting Albert Quakeman 6 targets in this game? Oh man.
So like I said, we need to start getting the playmakers the ball if we want to start winning. That's the most straightforward path to me if you want to get back to winning football. But the problem is that 1, I don't see that happening. And 2, let's not forget, Jakobi Meyers requested a trade at the beginning of the year. Now, I'm not saying that that he's being slighted or that he's not
doghouse.
Right, that he's in a doghouse because of it. But what I am saying is, hey, if we don't change things, if we continue to lose, guess who's going to be the top wide receiver on the market come the trade deadline?
Yeah, no kidding. It's going
to be Jakobi Meyers. So I don't know if I can necessarily say that like for where Jakobi Meyers is right now and moving forward, if I can say it's trending or ending, because maybe I'm going to hedge my bets and just say that I think he gets moved because I don't think Vegas turns this around. But this one is just like, I can't you can't rely on Jakobi Meyers right now. There's no startable piece in this Vegas offense outside of Ashton Gentry. And I am not including Brock Bowers in that because his injury is week to week. That's the update that we got on the knee injury. So
yep.
It stinks because Jakobi Meyers was everyone's kind of mid to late round wide receiver darling because they said it's Brock Bowers veggies. And yeah, right. So, and at this point, like I said, there is nothing that you can trust in this Vegas offense outside of Ashton Gentry getting touches because that's all that they can really do well right now.
5 different players saw 5+ targets in this game. No player saw more than 6 targets. So Jakobi Meyers was tied for the team lead with Trey Tucker, Ashton Gentry, and good old Albert O for the team high in targets. And to me, that's just unacceptable. I mean, you got to give Jakobi Meyers the football, even if it's just Jakobi Meyers and Trey Tucker. And if you want to sprinkle in Alberto, I get getting Ashton Gentry 4 or 5 targets in this game as well. But holy cow, you named it. When you're playing from behind against the Indianapolis Colts, who have been just a red-hot offense this year, let's start feeding people who can actually make plays for you instead of getting Jack Besh with his hand in the dirt on the line of scrimmage. I don't know what we're doing. I want to go back and watch the All-22 and see what the heck is actually going on with Geno in this Chip Kelly offense, but clearly whatever product they're trying to put out on the field isn't working whatsoever. For Jakobi Meyers, for Brock Bowers before his injury, to me, I lean towards the 41% here and saying, unfortunately, I think this trend is going to continue until Chip Kelly and this offense can figure something out and provide a bit more chemistry, a bit more of a spark, a bit more of a fire under the butt of this offense. Player who has been doing really well, Ty, and again, another just eat your veggies player to start the season, Courtland Sutton, man. I mean, he has been phenomenal to start the year. Even though Bo Nix was struggling a bit first 2 games to start the year, it's like, oh boy, if we actually regressed on Bo Nix, this isn't a good sign. But Courtland Sutton, so far this year, over the last 3 games, he has had 17 plus fantasy points in each of those games. I really took a long detour to get there because I was trying to pull up the stat on my phone. And of course, it took me forever. I kept mashing buttons to try and find it. But Courtland Sutton, 17 plus fantasy points in 3 straight games. 78%. Think this is Courtland Sutton is absolutely trending. We're going to continue to get top 10 play out of him moving forward. I don't know if I can go as high as top 10, but I will say if there's one Denver Broncos player you want right now that isn't named J.K. Dobbins, again, let me rephrase. If you want one Denver Broncos wide receiver right now, let's stop getting cute with the Troy Franklins, the Marvin Mimses of the world. Let's go ahead and just say, hey, Courtland Sutton is a guy we always want. 5 for 16 to score. Book it.
I would agree. Top 10 is a stretch. Just when you look at the last, like when you look at the last 3 weeks, right? Ever since the Indy game where they rotated in, what's his name? Pat Bryant with Courtland Sutton and Troy. That was the Troy Franklin game. Ever since then, from week 3 on, Courtland Sutton has been the wide receiver 21 in usage.
Sure.
But his points per game right now is that he's the wide receiver 7. So are we overperforming the usage just a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
We are. Just
that's what I was trying to sit with too in this. Yeah.
But at the same time, what is the one thing working in the Denver passing game right now?
Literally only Courtland Sutton.
Correct.
So we're force feeding Troy Franklin in week 2, but
this is true. And I don't see that happening because really ever since, again, that Indy game, yes, the Chargers game was a bit of a weird one, but 28-3 against Cincinnati and then the comeback win against Philadelphia, that's what's working right now for this offense is that Bo Nix to Courtland Sutton connection. So I will agree with you on the premise of top 10. I would side more with 22% because I just don't think right now he's overperforming the usage. But if you are looking for a steady Eddie wide receiver 2 for your team and arguably a buy low guy right now, because if the manager isn't paying attention right now to what Courtland Sutton is doing.
Sure. You can have that contingency in there.
Correct. So I was the most pro Bo Nix, pro Denver Broncos guy between the 3 of us. Sure, it's been a bumpy road. It's been a bumpy start to the year. But I think we're now kind of seeing what the strengths of this Denver offense are and what the weaknesses are. And the strength, one of the very few strengths so far this year, is that Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton connection.
So the only reason why I even brought up top 10 is because Courtland Sutton in PPR formats right now is a top 10 wide receiver on the season. So the question is based on, hey, he's currently top 10. Do we think that continues based on his strong performance recently? That's why I do think people lean more towards the trending. It's not that he's, lock in top 10 here on out, but I do think people look at Courtland Sutton and the Bo Nix connection, and it's like, if it's not Sutton, who else is it going to be for Denver? Because nothing else is working. The J.K. Dobbins in the run game has looked great. Big upside over the Eagles. Courtland Sutton, a big part of that. Again, totally just an eat your veggies kind of player coming into the season where the ceiling wasn't going to be super high. He's being drafted as like the wide receiver 26 for a reason. But you knew week in, week out, you're going to look at the box score more times than not. You're going to look down. You're going to see 6 receptions, 50 yards, and a score. And you know what? Sometimes that's all you need to just get a nice, cool 13, 14 fantasy points in any given week and just continue to establish yourself as a steady Eddie wide receiver 20-ish every single week. It just so happens now we're starting to get more of that ceiling mixed in as well. If Courtland Sutton truly does continue to get the lion's share of the targets here for the Denver Broncos, if we're not mixing in a Troy Franklin so frequently anymore, if we're not mixing in a Pat Bryant as much, we're not mixing in a Marvin Mims as much anymore. Let's just lock it in. Bo Nix, Courtland Sutton, put the ball in J.K. Dobbins' gut, put the ball in R.J. Harvey's gut, get him involved in the dump offs as well. Let's just keep this offense simple for Bo Nix because that's what he's shown he can continue to do well. As soon as they tried to open up the middle of the field for him, he still can't hit broadside of a barn. Maybe that's a little harsh. But like the dig routes were still pretty rough to start the year. Gotten a smidge better, but no. What's worked? Sean Payton's like Bo Nix, to Courtland Sutton and handing the football off has worked well. So we're going to continue doing that. So yeah, I'm with the 78 here. I think this trend continues. I think we do see Courtland Sutton as like a top 20, borderline top 15 wide receiver rest of season in this Denver Broncos offense. Before we get to the rapid fire portion of the show, if you do have any like general fantasy football questions you want answered, you can head over to our Discord. Us or someone from our community will make sure to answer your fantasy football question, whether it is a waiver question, whether it's a trade question, whether it's a rankings question, a start sit question, whatever it may be. Someone in our community will make sure to help you out. We're trying to build a fun and interactive Discord community. So that is down in the description of the audio podcast or YouTube video you are watching. I'll even pin a comment over on YouTube as well. Let's close it out with a bit of rapid fire, Ty. Some names we have brought up in the past, whether our opinions have changed or not on them in the last week or two. Brock Bowers, obviously dealing with an injury. We talked about him on last week's show. He did not play in week 5 because of said injury. Where are you at? Where are you at on Bowers?
I'm out.
You're done.
I'm
You're done.
Because I like good offenses. And what we were talking about with Jakobi Meyers, the Vegas offense right now is not good. They are really bad. And I know that Brock Bowers in the we've talked about this before. The tight end landscape is ever evolving, ever changing. And Brock Bowers may be one of the top guys in usage. But again, because of the price that you paid for him in drafts, I'm going to cut ties with however I can and get whatever I can for him right now. Because again, I just don't like this Vegas offense. So it may be scary. You may have to stream the tight end position for the rest of the year. I'm fine with that.
Do it. You can go out and probably work out a trade for a middling guy like a Hunter Henry to get a piece back in that trade that you're just like, I'll plug Hunter Henry in. Who was the other name that I was? Dalton Kincaid. I bet someone would give you like a Dalton Kincaid kind of player for Brock Bowers. Don't do that straight up because you can get more than Dalton Kincaid for Brock Bowers. But like my point being is like you could downgrade from the tight end position while upgrading another position on your team and get just as much production. I really don't want to seem like I'm overreacting because people be like, holy cow, you're really willing to downgrade that far from Brock Bowers. I'm saying you can upgrade at another position and get a potentially more productive tight end. I don't want to say rest of season than Brock Bowers, but I don't know, man. If you drafted Brock Bowers in the early second round, I'm guessing your team ain't doing so hot right now in fantasy. And I'd be willing to mix some things up and go try and maximize what you can get for Brock Bowers. Again, if you were to get like a Dalton Kincaid and like a strong wide receiver, Dalton Kincaid and Courtland Sutton for Brock Bowers, you take that deal?
I would.
I think that's the kind of package you could probably get for Brock Bowers at this point. While the one side is like, yes, I just got Brock Bowers. And the other side is like, oh, sweet, I got a startable tight end. And I got a strong wide receiver too for my team, right? So turning ideas. I would want to sit on that more, obviously. But again, that's why you go join the Discord to see if someone else can help you sort out your thoughts as well. Derrick Henry, we talked about him last week, Ty. One of the big things that we said is that the schedule coming up before his bye week, in week 7, was not going to be fun. Week 8 and beyond, though, is when things start to get interesting. Looking at the box score, watching the Ravens just get rolled by the Texans, man. This team is just so uninspiring. And I know they're decimated by injuries. But I feel like you can only hold on to Derrick Henry for so long before you got to do something about it.
I would agree. I think we're getting
you trade him, but you trade him. He's got a bye week, and people are sniffing that. So, do you trade him before the bye week, before he potentially bounces back? Will the Ravens be healthy enough by then? Because that's the case. We're in a really tough spot here, where you could look at Derrick Henry and it's like tough it out for 2 weeks, because hopefully after the bye week, this team is going to be more healthy, and they get a great schedule coming out of the bye for Derrick Henry. Or you just try to capitalize now. Capitalize is like you can't even call it capitalizing. You just jump ship now. That's really what it is.
That's exactly what it is. It's similar to Brock Bowers of like, do you just cut ties and not have to worry about it anymore, or do you try to like play the game a little bit? I think why I would stick with Derrick Henry and not try to cut ties like I would with Brock Bowers is because I know what the ceiling of this Baltimore offense is when everything is clicking.
Great. Yep.
So it's unfortunate. It sucks because, again, because of Derrick Henry's bad performances so far, you're likely towards the bottom of your league right now, unless like you hit on a Rome Odunze, Jackson Smith and Jigba, some guys like that have ultimately kind of like covered up for the shortcomings of Derrick Henry. It just sucks though. And I think that puts you in a spot where I think it makes you a buyer, honestly, because you need some kind of replacement in the meantime until Derrick Henry comes back to what I will say is full strength in fantasy. Maybe that's a bit backwards, but again, like I said, when I know the ceiling of this Baltimore offense, when everyone is healthy and everything is clicking, it's unmatched.
I'm a buyer of Derrick Henry on his bye week. That's what I'll be doing. I'll be sending out low trade offers on his bye week. That's my plan. And maybe even this week too before his bye. I might try.
If you're a contender. If you're a
contender, absolutely. If you're a contender, go out and see if you can get Derrick Henry before the bye week here. AJ Brown, look, love that man. Posted some scripture straight out of Mark on his.
But it was from the message, man. It was from the message.
We won't get into the Christianity details of all of that, but it was Devonta Smith who still led this team in targets. And a report came out before the game. AJ Brown and Devonta Smith unsatisfied with the rules within the offense. It's just one of those where you're like, shut up. No way.
No way.
They're not happy because they're not getting no way. Two prolific NFL wide receivers aren't happy because they're not getting the football. No way. I would never guess. It's just like, oh man. So Devonta Smith got in on the action. Pat Surtain was on AJ Brown most of the game. 5 receptions for only 43 yards for AJ Brown. Is that encouraging enough for you to hold on AJ Brown?
There was a tweet a while back. I want to say it was before week 4. Maybe it was before week 5 even, that said that Philadelphia actually leads the league in 3-and-out rate on offense. So it's not exactly the fact that we're running the ball so much, is that we're not sustaining drives. And on top of it, when your defense and special teams are kind of willing your team to wins at this point, we come up with games like we had before week 5 and Sands. Shout out to Cam because I'm going to try to use that as much as I can at this point.
So dumb. But keep going. I did find that tweet for you, by the way. Sam Hoppett over on Twitter going through the first 4 weeks. Philadelphia Eagles had a 3-and-out rated over 45%, which led the league. Vikings not far behind, but keep going.
Gross. Again, because we're not sustaining drives, we don't have as many opportunities when we're on the field to make impact, to produce for fantasy. So in games like we did against the Rams, where we're playing from behind, that's where we'll see AJ Brown. In games like Denver, because they
threw the ball 40 times.
I know, like we didn't want to run the ball. Like
how are we? Oh, that's the most obscure thing.
Can I just say this feels like the better side of the way that things should have gone when it was Brian Johnson that was the offensive coordinator in Philly. What was that in 2023? Right? Like this is what they were hoping for with Brian Johnson. And it was just it was a total failure on all fronts. And now that they're actually winning games, it's actually kind of covering up for the shortcomings of this offense. So if I'm an AJ Brown owner, I'm going to try to just cut ties because I'm done trying to play the guessing game. But if I'm a contender, I know that the price is legitimately like 50 cents on the dollar right now, 60 cents on the dollar. I'm just going to go throw out a feeler offer and just see. Because let's say Philly does turn it around and the passing game starts clicking, AJ Brown can be another top 15 guy then the second half of the year. So it feels gross because nothing's working right now in Philly. And here we are still saying like, I've got some interest in the Philly wide receivers.
I mean, I do. Giants, Vikings, Giants, the next 3 games. Hello, Kevin Petula. You got the Giants 2 games in a row to figure it out. You have the offensive line to potentially stand up to the pass rush of the New York Giants.
He won't.
Minnesota Vikings, you're probably just going to run the football all over them because they can't defend the run this year. Maybe they'll have something figured out coming off of their bye week. And you got 2 games against the Giants to figure it out. You can attack the secondary. You can attack them in the run. Let's figure this freaking offense out here. And I think one of those games is going to have to be an audition for the passing attack of how you're going to figure this out. So I do have some interest in A.J. Brown. I'm not like encouraged enough to be like, oh, yes, I'm going to go pay up to make sure I get A.J. Brown. Like, I'm still only throwing out like 65 cents on the dollar for A.J. Brown, if that even. But I think there's room for him to bounce back here. Jameson Williams, we touched on him earlier, Ty. Well, you touched on him earlier with the Sam Laporta, TJ Hockenson stuff. You said you're willing to dabble in the Jameson Williams experiment yet. I'm out. I'm 100% out. I want nothing to do with it. Because when's it going to be? If not against the Cincinnati Bengals. When is it going to be?
Yeah.
I don't have any confidence. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's Jahmyr Gibbs. It's David Montgomery. Then it's Sam Laporta. Then it's Jameson Williams.
But
to me, that's the clear pecking order right now.
Hold on. It like next week, though, it could be Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jameson Williams, then Sam Laporta.
Yeah,
so you don't want the number 4?
We're fighting for 4 and 5. We're fighting for 4 and 5. I got no interest. I'm done. I'm 100% out. Go get what you can.
I think Jameson Williams, I'm confident in saying he's a better and best ball pick than he is for redraft or anything.
Because I don't have to look at my lineup every week and figure out whether to play him. Correct. I'll just play him when he can get 30 points from me. But if he's only going to give me 3, no, thanks. Get him off your free draft teams.
Yep, he's extremely boom bust, and he
more
is
bust than boom.
Correct. You need the big plays because he does have nearly it's a 19.9 average depth of target. He's being used downfield, which you want to see, but that connection is not hitting right now. And when it does, like it did, what was it, week 2, week 3? That's great, but you can't predict that. You have no way of knowing when that game is actually going to happen or not. So again, better in best ball. I would just get what I can for him. Honestly, I think he's cuttable in redraft. I'll be honest.
I don't know if I'm willing to go that far.
Because the thing is, I don't know what people are going to be willing.
Much more upside than anybody else you can find on the waiver wire.
Yeah, but how
much more upside?
Yeah, sure, more upside, but again, the debate is consistency. The debate is not so much the upside on a week to week. Sure, do you hold them through bye weeks and stuff?
You got worse players.
I also said
in a shallow
week,
league, like 8
in a shallow, yes,
8-man league. I think you probably can. 10-man league, maybe a debate. 12-man or bigger, you can. There's too much upside to be had.
Sure, maybe I overgeneralized it, but like, he's not touching your starting lineup. So if he's going to be sitting on the bench, he's just taking up a spot for a guy that maybe has a better floor that you can bank on more during the bye weeks. Or again, you would just take the shot. I get it. But at the same time, you're not going to be able to move Jameson Williams right now because nobody wants what Jameson Williams has given you through 4 or 5 games this year.
I guess I'm more willing to entertain that though. Best offer. Send me your best offers. And like, obviously, if everyone's out there throwing you like Dontavian Wicks for Jameson Williams, obviously you just hold on Jameson Williams. But
so like Ryan Flournoy or Jameson Williams.
Someone picks up Ryan Flournoy, the biggest fool's goal. I'm gonna be so upset when I read however many waiver wire articles have Ryan Flournoy on them. I'm gonna be like, you literally are wasting fab on a player who's literally going to be irrelevant in fantasy football when CeeDee Lamb returns, if not next week.
What about two-tutty Xavier Hutchinson?
Yeah, right. Yeah, guy hasn't caught a touchdown in 40 games. Catches 2.
Right. Kendrick Bourne after 11 targets?
Hey, Slicky Ricky and Juwan Jennings can't stay healthy this year. So, literally, they've been battling injuries since late July, and they're not healthy yet. So I do think that makes Kendrick Bourne an ad. But anyways, we'll put a bow on everything there, Ty. If the people want to follow more of our content, FFL is over on Twitter. The FFL is over on Instagram. Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok. If you are a YouTube truther through and through, Fantasy Football Fellas shorts on the red play button app. Exclusive content over there. Nothing that's remade from our podcast here. It's all separate exclusive content that you won't be able to find anywhere Alice. You can follow our personal socials as well. I'm at Lucas Wenzel on X, Tyler_Plath for Ty. If you want to go follow Cameron as well, give him a pity follow because he's sick today and going to be on the show. Cam Law FFF over on Twitter. I do find it ironic that he was at a wedding this weekend. And he said, we'll see how this goes. And then the next morning, I heard nothing about him being sick. And he's like, I'm sick.
I was at a wedding. I was out of state.
I'll be at a wedding this weekend. I won't be live on Sunday because I'm vacationing afterwards, but
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Not a great look, Cam. He'll be back tomorrow. At least I hope he will. Otherwise, you and I will have to work out how the heck to do a trade episode that I'm normally not on tomorrow. We'll see you all tomorrow for some buy low, sell highs later this week for some start sit action as well. We'll see you then. Deuces.